Hey y'all, how's it going? I'm trading the ES futures on a 2000 tick chart with a 21 EMA. So I've got the overnight high up here and the overnight low down here. These are our key levels for the day. I started trading at 8 Central Time, which is this area right here as we were pushing higher. Now I want to talk about this long really quick. So, this swing right here is kind of the base of our overnight low level. It's not a very strong looking swing, but it did end up holding a couple more times, so it became pretty clear. Now with this long here, we have downtrend. I didn't mean to move that. We have downtrend, break, first attempt lower, second attempt lower, and so this would basically be entering after two legs at a new low. Now we made a new low on that first leg, but it's still common to get a second attempt lower because a lot of times it'll try to make a measured move down with those legs. But basically, when you have a key level holding, you don't have to be too concerned about it having two perfectly measured legs at a new low. The point is the downtrend is played out with a break, two legs at a new low, and then a huge rush back to the EMA, closing barely above. And I do like this entry because it's big picture, it's off these lows, it's a triple test. The downtrend is played out with two legs at a new low, and then a very strong bullish reaction. Now, I do want to mention here, you are entering into this. And so, considering how big picture it is, I do like this entry. But you have to remember, if this starts to come into play, if it starts to strongly reject this level, you do need to learn how to know when to get out. I have a hard time getting out of trades. Even when I know that, I should get out, I'll have a hard time exiting. But say that, you got this small rejection here. That shouldn't bother you, really, considering how big picture it is. But say that you rejected it and then pushed lower and then got another swing holding below the EMA and then pushing lower. That's when I would try to get out, because as big picture as it is, every now and then a smaller picture structure, for one reason or another, institutions will start, selling at that level for some reason, and then it ends up being stronger than we initially thought. And so if it ends up holding strong and pushing lower, forming another swing below, then I would try to get out. But, because of how big picture it is, I don't mind entering into that smaller resistance given how big picture the trade is. But anyway, we push on up here, we get this correction, doesn't reach the EMA, push up again, correction, doesn't reach the EMA, so there's no way to take anything. But we have a second leg up here, so we can clearly see there's a couple legs up forming this larger second leg, or this larger, this is the second leg here, it's forming a larger single leg. And so we push out of the overnight high, we start getting congestive. It doesn't even reach the EMA or the overnight high, so there's no way to enter long. Not to mention there wouldn't be a way anyway, even if it did, because when you push out of the overnight high, you want to see two attempts to fade before you buy with the breakout. You don't want to just buy when it closes out. You want to wait for two attempts to fade, and then you enter on the failure to fade. And so anyway, we push on up. It stays a bit choppy. We push a little higher, and then we rush below, get this lower high, but the lower high is right into this overnight high. I would not enter right into that. It's just a lower high. It's not like a big picture trade anyway, so I'm not going to bet on it pushing through that. But we push on lower here, and then here you can see we have this overshoot, and then when we push up, it reacts to the trend line, but it does break, and you can tell that there's a kind of a gap right here. So some may view this right here as a failed second entry. They might say this is a big picture failed second entry, first entry long, second entry long, failure. But I did not view it that way. I can see that it basically looks like that. But when you draw the structure here, you have this downtrend, and overshoots will oftentimes lead to reversals without needing a new low. Now in this case here, it appears like it tried to make a new low there. It could have also just been reacting off the trend line, but basically I view this as one leg down because we overshot and then immediately formed a double bottom, which is a bottoming pattern, of course, and then we had a huge spike above. So to me, this looked like a reversal. So I wasn't looking to, go short right here. It did end up acting pretty well as a short entry, but that was a bit too risky to take as a failed second entry for me. So I avoided that. We push on lower here. Now, like I said, oftentimes when you overshoot, it'll immediately lead to a reversal. In this case, that did happen, but this overnight high was very strong, so it ended up holding, and we did get a second leg down here. So we have this first leg down, second leg down, And now when we started pushing up here, I was going to look to, for a short to reach this measured move, because you can still look for, you can look to complete the measured move. Even though you have 2 clear legs down, you can still get, a smaller entry to complete it. And so, unfortunately, we only got this first entry. I was hoping we would push up, maybe to here, get a push lower, and then get a second entry off the EMA with a nice entry to reach this measured move. But unfortunately, it's just a first entry. It's too bullish. You're just pushing on up. You need to see a second leg, and then we put, we have this tick lower. We start pushing higher again, and we just reach all the way back up to the overnight high. Now, I want to go over this right here because I'm sure that some people got trapped on a even bigger picture failed second entry. You can see first entry long, second entry long, failure. But I don't like this either, because to me, I view this as 2 legs down into a reversal, because now let's just say that price ended up holding really well off of this and pushing below the EMA, okay? Because this is basically the reversal fighting this key level right here. And so if we had actually pushed below the EMA and got some kind of lower high below the EMA, confirming that the overnight high is stronger than the reversal, then we could have looked for some lower high entry, which on a big picture, you would still be entering on the big picture failed second entry. But in this particular case, we just had this reversal. It's above the EMA. You're entering into the EMA. So it's just too risky, it's just right after that reversal higher. So if we could have actually proven, if price could have proven that this overnight high was stronger than the reversal by getting below the EMA and holding, then we could have looked to get an entry, which on a bigger picture, like I said, would be a part of this bigger picture failed second entry. So I hope that's clear. But I just did not like entering, well, like I said, I'm not going to repeat, I've already repeated myself a few times on it, right after a reversal above the EMA. So anyway, we push on up higher here. We don't even reach the EMA when we start pushing lower there. We just push on higher. Now we can tell there's a couple legs there, but on a big picture, that's 1 leg. Now, like I was talking about earlier over here, when you break out of a overnight high or range, before you buy the breakout, you want to see 2 attempts to fade. And so here we get first attempt to fade and then second attempt to fade. So we have 2 legs down. It's after this uptrend broke. And then, of course, it's important to note this red measured move here. We have this leg up that started in this range, leg up, couple legged break, second leg up. So I like going long here because not only is it after 2 attempts to fade, it's also with this measured move in play. And so we have this STT right here, and it's basically small picture fighting big picture. Like, it depends on the context of whether you enter into STT. Now, one thing that I was a little bit conflicted on was, these legs could have been a little bit more bigger picture. I didn't like that they were kind of small picture mixed with the STT, but they're clearly separated. You can tell. And plus, I was staying within this, this structure right here. This wasn't like a huge structure or anything. And so I did get stopped out that first entry. I entered above that. It was, oftentimes I'll talk about a separation, the entry from the second leg. So notice how we have these 2 legs down here, and on this second leg, it just drops like a rock. And then there's not much separation between this, extremely bear bar and then my entry bar. And so I really think that combined with the STT could have led to me getting stopped out. But on a bigger picture, it has good context. So I did re-enter, rode it to the high of that structure, this range right here. And unfortunately, the winning trade was 1 tick less than the loser. But anyway, there's some more stuff later on, though, so it's not a big deal. But just to be clear, this was basically big picture fighting small picture. We had this STT right here on these smaller picture legs, but the entry, the target was, pretty small picture as well, 10 ticks within this range, using the bigger picture structures to our advantage. Once again, the 2 attempts to fade and the measured move higher there, which we had yet to reach. And then when we got this break, it just looked like a clear, I just want to make it clear, because sometimes people will get confused on these bigger picture failed second entries. Now, sometimes someone will ask me something like, they'll see a trend like this, and then these 2 legs out, and they'll ask me, do I view this as a big picture failed second entry? And the answer is no, because even though you have a leg up here, these two legs are pretty small compared to this uptrend. So I'm not going to view this as like a two-legged break, failed second entry. Now take this for example. Here we have uptrend, two clear attempts lower. It's clearly forming a big picture failed second entry. Here, both of these legs combined basically makes one leg down. That's proportional in size to this uptrend right here, kind of like how these two legs are proportional in size to this uptrend, and so it's clearly a failed second entry. This is basically just, a break, and you have a higher low, basically, on the bigger picture. So just wanted to clear that up. And so anyway, we push on up here, we break out of that high, and I don't like going short there because it's a spike up. You can't confirm that it's going to drop from there. You can't confirm that's the top. It could easily, tick lower, make another leg out, and push lower then. So, the EMA is straight up. This is just not an area you want to go short in. If we had reached that measured move and we had maybe gotten a clear second entry, then I'd be interested, but it's just too bullish at that point. So anyway, we push on lower here, we get this lower high. Of course, it's right into this trend right here, or excuse me, not trend, this range low, so I'm not going to enter into that. But we continue lower here. We start forming this wider channel here, and then, it breaks. I don't like this. This is just too small picture. We have this downtrend, break, new low, attempt to reverse higher, closing above the EMA, and then you're shorting right into the overnight high at that point. This is kind of just a mess. It's very choppy. It's been chopping since inside of this trend, and then we're breaking out, and it's staying the same kind of, choppy mess right here. So I don't like any of that. But yeah. So anyway, we push on lower here, and then you can tell, this is a little bit tricky. So I'm gonna unclutter some stuff really quick. So basically, we have this leg down right here. Now you can tell on a big picture, this is one leg down. Now like compare, so like say we push down here, right? We have this break and then another leg down. Now compare, this gap right here to this gap right here. It's just like, it's clearly a bigger picture break. And then also when you draw a trend line over this, it's like, say the price held on this green trend line, then this would have just been continuing this one leg down, but it broke the structure, so then we got another leg down. And so I hope that's clear. So a lot of times I'll talk about how I don't care about everything to the tick, and I like to see structure breaks to get my legs. And so basically you can see here, we had this push down on a big picture. It's clearly one leg. If this trend line had held, we would have continued this leg down, but since it broke, we got the opportunity to get an entry for this second leg down. And so after we broke, retested the overnight high, and started pushing down again, we formed this. This is a, from here, it's a failed second entry. You can see first entry long, second entry long, failure. On the other side of the count, it's first entry short, second entry short. It's the third bounce off this trend line. I'm just going to unclutter that really quick. And then we have this big measured move in play. Now, I was aware of this previous level. This is the first sign of a bullish imbalance when price is bouncing in the range before reaching the lows. It's telling you bulls are taking control. And I was aware of that, and I was also aware that we had just bounced in that area. Now, that's not, a complete sign that we're reversing higher here. It did end up holding on this trend line and below the EMA. But I'm not going to push my target past this area here. So I just did, basic one-to-one target, and I'm happy with that. Getting out before that resistance. So I really like that trade right there. Also, I do want to mention, these are two very clear legs right here. It's clearly off this, uptrend right here. You have this bigger picture move in play. I'm not going to care about, that blocking it, because there's many times where you can draw a very small picture trend line blocking your entry, but if there's so many other big picture reasons to consider it, you gotta kind of ignore those sometimes. We had these couple legs pushing out, so two legs up, pushing back into two legs down. I'm not going to let this small picture trend line bother me. Now, one thing I want to mention is let me just talk about these two more trades again really quick. Say that we had say that this leg had pushed all the way up to the measured move and then we got this entry. So say that we got this exact same trade, except this leg got a little bit higher and we fully reached that measured move. There would be no way that I would be going long right here, because when you reach a major measured move, that's a sign, it's very likely to reverse right after. So I would not take any chance with these, smaller legs that kind of look like one leg. No chance I would do that. But since we had it in play and it acts as a magnet, and we played out on a short picture, I absolutely loved it to ride it to the other end of that target. But say we had reached it, that would have been far too risky, because now we no longer have a big picture magnet in play for that. As a matter of fact, it's played out, so we're more likely to go the opposite way. Same thing here. If we had actually reached this measured move all the way down here and then got this entry with that STT and everything, there would be no way to go short there, because the big picture structure would be out of play. And so I hope that's clear. We push on up here, rush back above that EMA, it gets a little bit choppy here, we continue higher, and then here, this is where we get the big picture failed second entry. We can see, clearly that bullish imbalance, became very apparent. It was clearly ended up holding, and we had a huge push off of it, and we formed first entry short, second entry short, failure. So not only is it a big picture failed second entry, you also have a double test of this overnight high right after forming a bullish imbalance. So this is a great area to look for a long. Now, I do want to mention, and someone in the site, when I posted this on the site, someone said they had the exact same experience as me, basically, which is that I kind of chased the entry a bit. I was trying to get in with a limit order a little bit farther back, but I chased it a bit, and it triggered and it came back, and so I ended up chasing it a bit too much, because I'm going to adjust this RR. You see how 1-to-1 I have to push it pretty far out of this resistance? Now, considering, how big picture this was, I did like it, but also this resistance is lining up pretty well with this resistance over here. So I was not, wanting to push it out so far. So what I did was I lowered my target by 2 ticks. So I went for 0.9 R. So this is 0.9 R. Now, usually I don't like to lower my target at all, anything past 1-to-1, even by a tick. But it just so happened that I chased it a bit too far. I wasn't really paying attention, and I ended up not wanting to push my target, the full 17 ticks. I wouldn't, if you're really new to this, I would recommend, not financial advice, whatever you got to say on YouTube, but if you're new to this, I would not intentionally take a trade knowing that it's going to be less than 1-to-1, even if it is by a couple ticks, because if you want to gain consistency and, say that you're starting to break even and you just need to tilt the scales a little bit to profitability, these ticks do matter, and the perfect risk reward does matter if you're trying to tilt the scales into profitability. But if you already enter and you realize you kind of entered a bit too high, and you should have entered a little bit lower, but I'm not saying to scratch the trade because of that, but maybe consider lowering your target a bit, and then watch out for it next time. So that's why I lowered my target there. It was just I wasn't wanting to push it out that far from that resistance. But anyway, so we push on up here, clearly forming this range. I basically stopped trading pretty soon after this last trade here. So we can see we're starting to go a little bit choppy here. We had this first entry long, second entry long, closing above the EMA there. It's off these lows right here, which I actually want to try drawing this out, because we had formed another, basically like a triple test. We had 1, 2, 3 off this similar level, then we had that spike. So I'm curious to see how this plays out. Look at that perfect measure move. Went a little bit above. I'm just drawing this out for you all to see the visual. So these measured moves, they really are important levels. I mean, in my opinion, if you think that's a coincidence, it just happened to turn down there, that's kind of an insane thing to think. It was very close like that, very close with that. And then, of course, it was basically perfect with these 2 legs down. But anyway, so yeah, I ended up just getting pretty choppy in this area right here. Rushing below the EMA like that. I don't like that long there, because I don't like how it basically made a double top. You could almost view that as a count reset. With the bodies, you can tell you got 2 legs, but I don't like how strong it pushed below the EMA. So anyway, and then of course here, I would want this to actually hold above. I would want to see, it's just a little bit choppy here. But anyway, we do push on up here. Now the most ideal trade in this area here would be a reversal pattern back down. Of course, you got to be careful. You need to draw this uptrend right here, because you have 1, 2, 3. Now say you get a good reversal pattern, like say you actually, get a leg down, you get a full failed second entry. I should probably draw it out really quick. Like say you get something like this. Now, if you get a clear reversal pattern after these couple legs up, if it forms really well, then these 2 legs higher right there will act as the uptrend, break, first attempt higher, second attempt higher, failure. So you'll basically have confluence off both sides. You'll have downtrend, break, first attempt lower, second attempt lower, as well as uptrend, break, first attempt higher, second attempt higher, failure. So ideal reversal patterns, you'll have confluence like that. Of course, you are looking pretty bullish, but considering you just reached that big measured move, there is definitely a high chance for a reversal pattern. So anyway, that's really going to do it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Wow, this is a longer video. This one's over 20 minutes so far. 21 minutes now. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this longer video, and yep, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.